Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome here at Crypto Hash Review, where we educate and disseminate information about Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies from a Muslim perspective. And we are continuing on our discussion about what the fatwa happened in 1971. And we've covered previously about how it impacted the income, how it impacted the net wealth of individuals and the rich and the poor, productivity and compensation for that productivity. And now we're going to take a bit of a look at how it also affected prices and inflation. So this is the interesting, you could say, cost of living in 1971 at the moment when the event happened, 1971, when the event happened. So what do we have here? A new home in 1971 in America was about $25,000 for a brand new house. And the average income, which is more important, I'm actually more interested in, was $10,600. So you effectively could, on an average wage, afford a home within 2 to 3 years. I'll say 2 to 3 because obviously it's a bit more than double. And also you got to account for costs. But the average income was about 3 years of your wages. And that's without interest. So you can live with your mum, live with your dad, 2 years, just work and graft, and you can buy a house, get married, have children, and you'll be fine. That was then. And many people think about why is it so expensive now? And like we mentioned in previous videos, although we've done a lot in terms of production, we make a lot of things, we have computers, smartphones, all that kind of amazing stuff, our wages haven't really been reflecting the rise in costs of living. So today, moving forward, how much income, what's the average income today for an individual? It's not a third of your yearly wages, that's for sure. Your yearly wages, you're looking at probably a 10th, maybe a 13th of what of the total cost. So I'm assuming, so for example, like houses, like in London, for example, and like in Leighton, you get between £500,000 to £750,000. And the income, a good wage, will be like 60,000 a year. That's not average, but that's a good wage. 60,000, 70,000 a year, probably even before tax. So that is literally more than, if you take the higher end, like £750,000, that is literally more than 10 years of working and grafting and not spending anything just to buy a house, as opposed to just 3 years we have here. Average rent, £150 per month. Tuition, so if you actually want to study in Harvard, I guess it's about $2,600 for the year. So I guess tuition now is a lot more than it is. So if you just try and look at this, gauging it to British pounds, I think it's about 20 odd or 30 odd thousand pounds. And I guess in dollars, that would be £50,000 dollars. So we've gone way more expensive just to study. It says a movie ticket, £1.50 or $1.50. Gasoline. What's interesting about this is that some things haven't gone up as much, whereas other things have. And this is true of all inflation, because money, it depends on where the money flows. So the cost of like food and stuff might not be as affected as the cost of housing, which has now been taken as an asset people go into and buy to make money, because house prices go up and they go up forever. So people say, okay, wait, if I buy houses, I'm gonna make money. So therefore, that people just buy houses even though they don't need it, which reduces the supply in the market, plus the money printing, which decreases the value of the money and pushes the house prices up. But anyway, it says 40 cents for a gallon. I'm not sure how much a gallon is, so I can't really comment on that one. It says United States postage stamp 8 cents. It is what it is. Then we have issues as granulated sugar, vitamin D, milk, and coffee, that kind of stuff. So we have, and there's bacon. I don't know how much that would be. Eggs is interesting. So this one, 45 cents per dozen. So I think it's about £1 something for a dozen of eggs. So like I say, some things haven't gone up that much. I mean, if you think about the price of eggs, then maybe at 30p, gone up to like £1 something. That's not the 10x we've seen with housing. So you can see some things haven't gone up as much, but other things have gone up a lot. Fresh ground hamburger and fresh baked bread, 25 cents. So yeah, some things haven't gone up as much. And this is why people don't think there's that much inflation. But don't realize that when it comes to inflation, inflation isn't even across the board. Some things will inflate a lot more than others. And here is the cumulative inflation from 1913 to 2015. So we see inflation, and it's a cumulative basically means that it adds on from the previous year. So it's not just how much it has grown per year, it's how much is it done over the period of time from zero to where it is. So we see massive inflation during 1915 to 1920, and I would assume that's due to the First World War. And then we see like a gradual decline until, again, the Second World War. So there was actually deflation during that moment of time, which they do say that the Great Depression was largely due to deflation, not inflation. And then from then on, we had an increase of inflation, which it is what it is. America was printing lots of money. Although it was technically backed by gold, but they were still printing. But it just wasn't one-to-one backed. The ratio was being eroded away, and then people started to ask for their gold-backed countries until this point, right here, 1970. We see that once they detached the dollar to the last peg it had to reality, which is gold, we start seeing this now. This massive bit of inflation. And this, I would probably even suggest that it might not even be that accurate, because it says here the consumer price index, and the consumer price index has been adjusted and changed 3 different times. There's one index from the 70s, there's another index from the 90s, I think it is 1990s, and another index recently, and they keep adjusting the index. So what do you mean by index? What is the consumer price index? What they do is that they take certain items that people would like to buy, and they track the price of it over time to see how much inflation has occurred, and how will they adjust and manipulate those stats by basically eliminating certain things that people might want to buy. So for example, today, when they say that inflation is about 2%, that's excluding many things you actually want to buy, like tuition, like a price of a home and certain assets. So these things that people actually want and people actually, trying hard to get, which is like a house, they exclude that from inflation. Because if they were to include that in inflation that they did in the early days, then inflation would be actually more akin to 10 to 17%. Some say 15 to 20, but I'm just keeping it on the low end, 10 to 17% per year. So that means your purchasing power is decreasing 10 to 13% per year if you actually include the original metrics that they had, which includes things like housing and all that kind of stuff. And also what they do, when they manipulate the consumer price index today, is that they, for example, if the price of a TV, for example, has gone up over time, they would discount that by saying, oh, you could do more of a TV now than you could do today. So that increase in price is due to the increase what you could do with TVs, not realizing that, well, not realize, I'm sure they realize, but just that's a way of which you can manipulate the statistics. This is another one. This is nice. Well, not nice, but this is interesting. So we see here, Bureau of Labor Statistics, Labor Statistics. So this is referring to. Hold on, wait. This is the consumer price index. My mistake. So not this one. This is to do with cumulative inflation. This one's to do with the consumer price index, which we just discussed. Again, we see First World War and then come back down. We have Civil War. War of 1812. First World War. Revolution. So basically, in wars and time of tragedy, you see a bit of inflation. Then it kind of comes down. Inflation. It kind of comes down. Inflation. And then it kind of comes down. First World War, we see inflation, and then it kind of comes down. Second World War, and then we just see 1971, and then bang, consumer index. As I've explained what it is anyway. Then we have electricity, food, fruits, and CPI. Electricity, food, and fruits. Again, it's to do with certain things that we pay for and how they've gone up over time. Food and fruits and so on and so forth. Again, this is the increase over time until 1971, and then we see this. So we can see inflation is quite serious. Again, same thing with housing. The house in New York and Boston. as opposed to, this is the median house price and the household income. So household price and income were kind of correlated until 1971. And this 1970s, 80s, that was a period where it kind of played out what's happening. And then now we say, boom, a decoupling of the house prices from what you're earning. So when people ask why are prices going up? How is it so expensive? How comes we can't afford a home? Why we are forced to go into interest and go into riba, which again causes it to go up even further. This one's an interesting one. The price of sales of household divided by the minimum hourly wage. Again, so we see from this moment on, it was kind of sideways, and then we see a spike upwards, sideways, and spike upwards. We basically see the same pattern. It's the same pattern. So and this is not only just in America, we see also in Australia and other places. It's not just only America, it happens all over the place. We see a decline or stagnation, then we see all of a sudden once you start decoupling and printing money ad infinitum and manipulating the markets, this is what you get. And that's it. So these are what we've covered so far as it relates to inflation. We will continue this in the future. We've got lots to cover. I hope you find this video beneficial. Please subscribe to our channel. Like this video. And check out our website where you can book a call, and we have many other products that you may be interested in, as well as other articles and videos and so on and so forth. And may Allah give you plenty of Bitcoin and save you from inflation. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.